All right, the question on everyone's mind tonight is what President Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, claims about the hush money payments actually a violation of campaign finance laws? Well, we have tonight's legal eagles here to weigh in. Former chief counsel to the House Judiciary Committee, Julian Epstein, and former member of the Federal Elections Commission, Hans von Spakovsky, now at the Heritage Foundation. Gentlemen, welcome to you both.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, so I want to play a little bit of what Michael Cohen said this morning, because there's this question about whether or not these payments were meant to influence the election, whether they would have been made irrespective of the campaign and the election. Here's what Cohen says about the timing.
You have to remember at what point in time that this matter came about, 2 weeks or so before the election, post the Billy Bush comments. So yes, he was very concerned about how this would affect the election.
Okay, Hans, how does that factor into your analysis of this?
Well, it doesn't really factor into it. The plain fact is that neither the FEC, the Federal Election Commission, nor former chairs of the commission believe that paying hush money is a campaign-related expense. It's a personal expense. It's the same as a business expense of a business owner. It's not related to the campaign. That was certainly the attitude of the FEC towards John Edwards when his contributors actually paid $1 million to his mistress. So it's not a campaign-related expense, no matter what the U.S. attorney in New York has persuaded him to plead guilty to.
Okay, this is what Senator Lindsey Graham had to say about that point.
I never, advocate violating the law. But from Trump's point of view, he's done non-disclosure agreements before to protect his family and his brand.
Okay, so Julian, how do we assess that? If this is about the president, saying, listen, I don't want my wife to find out, or I don't want to hurt the Trump brand, I don't want people to know about this, versus it's because I want to be president, who makes that call?
Well, I think that's right, and I think it's ultimately a failure of the statute, and I hate to spoil your show by agreeing with Hans here.
I'm going to put it on the calendar. I'm marking it down.
Well, look, I just think the statute is not clear. I think if it were to be a campaign finance violation, paying hush money to avoid embarrassing information, the statute should be clear. That's what a violation is. The statute isn't clear. And further, the regulations that the FEC has adopted are also really not clear. During the Clinton impeachment, I and a lot of progressives and Democrats were arguing the president isn't above the law, but he's also not beneath the law, and that that Clinton shouldn't be prosecuted in that case because civil perjury in that fact situation would have never been prosecuted. Well, I think some of that reasoning stands here as well. There has never really been a successful criminal prosecution for the payment of hush money, which could be a personal expenditure, maybe a campaign expenditure. It's very vague and not defined. Well, and criminal law constitutionally has to be very, rather specific. There's something known as unconstitutional for vagueness. I just don't think that this case, the Cohen case, and the and look, I think there's a lot of things, there's a lot of reasons that Mueller should do a full-bore inquiry into the Russian military intelligence attack on the U.S. election. Right, but I'm saying, so I think there are a lot of problems. I think there are a lot of questions about why Trump lied so much about this. But as to whether the question you're asking, whether it is a violation of criminal law, I am very skeptical as to whether that would stand up in a court of law.
And people have said, listen, you get the plea from Cohen, who people are arguing that he shouldn't have even pled guilty to this. It never goes before a jury. It's not going to, you're not going to have to prosecute the case. And knowing you can't indict the president, I'm thinking this question is going to remain probably unanswered for now. But Britt Hume had a tweet that I've heard some others bring up this question as well. He says, an obvious question Stephanopoulos might have asked Michael Cohen is if he ever arranged payment to any woman on Trump's behalf before 2016, which would go to the question of whether such payments were standard operating procedure for Trump or campaign related, never asked. To both of you, will that make a difference if we find earlier payments of this nature? Hans, to you first.
Well, that would certainly emphasize the point I'm making. But to go to what something that Julian said, look, a criminal violation requires, under this particular law, a knowing and willful violation. That means you have to know that what you're doing is illegal. How could the president know that this was somehow illegal under this law if the FEC previously had said this is not a violation of the law? Previous FEC chairs had said it's not a violation of the law. Under that standard, you can't approve a criminal violation.
All right, Julian?
I'd love to disagree with Hans, but it's hard to disagree with that reasoning. And I think
But would a prosecutor,
FEC,
Julian, any chance that SDNY, these prosecutors try to go after the president on the facts as we know them now?
Oh, I
don't think that they should.
Yeah.
I don't think that they should. I don't think it would be appropriate. I think anytime you go after a president, I think you can indict a president and seal an indictment, but I think anytime you go after a president of the United States in a criminal sense, you really have to have the goods. And you have to have a clear body of law that establishes clearly what the violation is, and that in fact juries in the past have found guilt in that situation. And here, this is kind of like you've never had a situation where this fact pattern has been prosecuted.
Yeah, this is
so
very
I think it
specific.
I'm not necessarily a real strong friend of President Trump's here, but I think
No.
you also have to stand up for what's right and what's wrong.
Okay.
I think the Russia inquiry has a lot of validity to it, but again, I think this part of it, I just doubt would actually stand up, in a jury trial.
So both of you think on this issue of campaign finance, quick final yes or no, you think the left and those who think it's a good prosecution and a way to go after the president, they're celebrating a little bit too early or wrongfully?
Yeah, no, I think they are.
This case. Julian?
I hate to say it, but yes, I think they are.
All right. Look, we had agreement. I'm sure we could bring another topic and that would change.
Sorry to screw up your show, Shannon.
No, we want to hear from our legal eagles. You both are great on both sides of the aisle. So thank you both for joining us, Julian and Hans.
Sure, thank you.
Thanks.